Good evening, councillors. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Audit and Resources Committee, being broadcast and recorded via Microsoft Teams Live. My name is Councillor Alex Bourne. I am the Vice Chair of this committee and will be conducting the meeting tonight. The Chair, Councillor Steve Holes, is unwell and we wish him a speedy recovery. During the meeting, you will hear from members of the Audit and Resources Committee who are on your screens now. Also present are officers from Eastleigh Borough Council who are now shown on the screen. They will introduce the reports that they have written for the committee tonight. If we have any non-committee members joining us, I will bring them in at relevant points and ask them to introduce themselves. If we experience a connection problem, this event will be paused. If a councillor loses connection or joins later, I will ask them to introduce or reintroduce themselves for the benefit of the viewers. In the unlikely event of myself losing connection, I've appointed Sarah Tyson-Payne as the acting vice chairman for this meeting, and she will take over. First item on the agenda is public participation. There will be no participation from the public on this occasion, as we have had no one registered by the deadline. Item 2 is to consider the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of June 2020. Do I have any comments from the councillors on the minutes? Okay, do I have a proposer?
Sorry, Chairman, I was trying to type and all the letters came out in the wrong order, so I do apologise for that. Thank you, Chairman. Can I just say that there are two things I would just want to comment on the minutes. First of all, they seem incredibly brief this time around. Usually our minutes are a lot more informative, and it does seem very brief. And the second point, under the confidential exempt business, we don't have a note of the recommendation that was proposed. I know that we can't discuss that at this particular point, but could it please be circulated to members so that we know what the recommendation was and have it actually minuted?
Okay, I'm sure we can get that arranged.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Irish, and a seconder, please. Councillor Manning, thank you. If you're all agreed, could you please unmute and signal your agreement?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the minutes have been agreed and we will add the confidential recommendation onto them. Thank you. Next, we are on to apologies. Are there any apologies for absence? I will ask Laura Johnson, Democratic Services Manager, if there are any apologies for absence. Laura.
Thank you, Chair. We obviously have apologies from the Chair, Councillor Holes. We have apologies from Councillor Adrian Chase and Councillor Rushton.
Thank you very much. Next is declaration of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest they wish to make? If so, please indicate in the meeting chat, and when called, please wait for the red box before stating the nature and reason for the interest. Okie doke. Item 5 is the Annual Internal Audit Report 2019-2020 and Internal Audit Plan 2021. Now I will ask our Chief Internal Auditor, Joe Cassar, to introduce item 5 on the agenda, which discusses the Annual Internal Audit Report 2019-20 and the Internal Audit Plan. I'll remind members to indicate if they wish to ask a question in the meeting chat. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. This is the report for the first quarter of 2020-21. So it runs from the period 1st of April to the 30th of June. Quite obviously during that, quarter, which you'll all be aware of, we spent predominantly the majority of our time supporting the response to COVID-19 pandemic. So little by way of usual audit reviews was carried out. So the report, unusually for me, is quite brief, talks about the support we've given to COVID. So just to highlight to you all that it was 58 days within the quarter. You'll recall when I last revised the plan, I anticipated, I was thinking 60 days was going to be enough for the year. Of course, now we've used that already. So I'm going to have a rethink about the audit plan and how we go about completing the audits we've got left in there. I mean, there's options for other arrangements, as I've explained before, through casual appointment. But it's something I need to sit down and talk to our CFO about. But just to draw your attention to that I'm working on that at the moment. I mean, of course, the work we're doing on COVID is given priority at the moment and is essential. We're completing a lot of post-assurance checks that we've been asked by central government to do on the business grants that have been paid. So the team are predominantly at the moment spending their time looking at that. Just to come down through the report, a couple of other areas to highlight to you. Coming down to page 13 of my report, taxation. That recommendation, since I wrote this report, has been completed. So training's been provided to officers around VAT, and of course we still have the support of buying in some external specialist advice when necessary. Coming back down through the report, there's you'll see still a number of recommendations from 18-19 outstanding. I'm sure you might have some questions around that, so I'm happy to answer questions. I've tried to provide you with the current position, but welcome any questions you have. Next paragraph I want to draw your attention to is paragraph 19, just around how we're actually completing our work at the moment. I thought it was appropriate to highlight to you all that we're, of course, working remotely and completing our audit work remotely. On occasions, we're having to take assurance through verbal assurance from members of the council, officers, sorry. We of course have recognised that that's not going to work longer term, and then in some cases we're going to have to actually look at physical records. But where that happens, the team are going to be highlighting that to me, and we're going to have a look at how we could possibly approach that slightly different way, whether it can be postponed to later, because ideally we'd, the health of the team is paramount, and if we can avoid Eastleigh House at the moment, then that's what we're going to do. Just to come back down, I had an apology to make. Appendix A, page 16, the 5th column says Q4. It's a typo, it should say Q1. Apologies. It's always one that slips through. And then the last appendix, of course, is the update on where we are with all the audit recommendations. And as I said, you might have some questions around that. So can I open it up to questions?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, before we go to committee members, I am inviting questions from non-committee members first. So are there any questions from non-committee members?
This is Councillor Judith Grajewski. No, but thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
OK, Councillor Tyson Payne, you have a question.
OK, excuse me. Hang on while I find the document with the question in it. So Councillor Tyson Payne. Yes, so my question is paragraph 14, Joe, the financial imbalance of approximately £330. Now, £330 is not a lot of money, but I am just worried about what that might hide. So if we've got an imbalance and we can't find it, so is this being progressed as a matter of urgency? I think that's my question, really.
Okay. Yeah, I can happily answer that. Yes, as I'm aware that the head of finance has tasked a member of his team to get to the bottom of this imbalance. From my understanding is it's sort of a set £330. It doesn't fluctuate over the month. So there's an error, a legacy system error, I think, that's come over into new processes that they're trying to get to the bottom of. So yes, it is being given priority at the moment.
So it isn't increasing. It's not.
No.
It's just a 330 sat there. Don't know what it is. OK, can I go on to my next question, Chair?
Of course.
Now, using a new document, so the thing. Commercial rents. So in the same paragraph 14, the 4th bullet point, the head of legal has advised that a response will be received by August 2020. Have we had that response?
I've had a partial response for those, and the reason there's not a lot of information in this report, and I will provide it to you once I've had it, is that until I've had that fully completed response, I don't feel comfortable providing any additional information because the report might change just yet. So Ian is actually on this group this evening, so I don't know if he wants to add anything more. Ian?
Sorry, yes, quite happy to help there. Yes, certainly, I've seen the report, I've looked at it. There's I haven't yet completed the section of the report that's down to me to complete. Quite simply, pressures of other work and additional resources meant I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I have spoken with Joe certainly today, and I also need to catch up with one of my team members who has been away when I've been there and there when I've been away over the summer. But looking at the recommendations, one I'm quite relaxed about, and the other is certainly work in progress with case managers to look at scanning in documents as a long-term project, which won't be completed anytime soon because it is a vast job. We have several thousand deeds that will need scanning in, so it's not a small job by any stretch of the imagination, but it's certainly on our agenda, and I'll certainly get the report completed so that Joe can present that as a final report to you.
Okay, so the scanning in, are we considering outsourcing that rather than?
The variety of things we've got to look at. I know inquiries have been made by colleagues in case management about looking at external scanning. Alternatively, it may be something that can be ongoing as a project for one of the case manager teams here. I haven't got that far yet, I'll be totally honest. Okay,
thank you. That's very honest. And then, sorry, I'm going to keep going. The tree policy. So that's further down. So it's still in 14, but it's one of the last. It's the 2018-19 review. So the tree management system is being upgraded during the summer of 2020, and 20 September will be formal adoption. Are we on track with that is my question, actually.
As far as I'm aware, I mean, Sarah might be better placed to answer this than I am, but I know I haven't heard anything otherwise. That was the last update I was provided with, so
yeah, I can pick up on that. It's on the agenda for management team, and I know it's been drafted. So yeah, Paul Naylor is bringing that to us very soon.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question, I think I'm going to leave because I've highlighted my document and can't read anything that I've written, and it was all of those tables in Appendix 2. Is it Appendix 2? Yeah, Appendix B. Yes, I can't read what I've written, so I'm absolutely certain somebody else is going to ask questions about it, so I will pass at that point. Thank you very much.
Okay, if it comes back to mind, then let me know and we can ask the question. Councillor Atkinson.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you, Joe, for a very comprehensive report. As always, it was very informative and useful. And thank you, Tyson Payne, because you've asked some of my questions as well, so that was handy. We don't need to repeat those. What I would like to highlight, though, is that I'm actually quite concerned that there are in total 23 audit recommendations still outstanding for 19-20 and 8 for 18-19, all of which are grade 2 and all of which are well beyond their sell-by date, because my understanding was that grade 2 recommendations had to be implemented within 3 months of the date that the issue is first raised. And incidentally, it would be helpful for future reports, Joe, if we could, on Appendix 2, where you show the grading, could we have a reminder of the report times within that? So grade 1 has got to be done within 1 month, grade 2 within so many months, so that I don't keep having to look it up, and we can all be mindful of the particular urgency of each graded recommendation. These are classified as high risk recommendations. So my question is, the fact that these recommendations have not been implemented within their timescale, what actual risk are we putting council at because they haven't been done? I've got other questions, but that one you might like to take as one at a time. Okay, thank you. Just to explain, the suggested timescales are just some suggested timescales. So usually when an officer comes back with their completed action plan and they give me a suggested date, I'll consider that. I mean, you can see if I just use accounting for fixed assets as an example, already the date has been suggested as 30th of June 2021, because that's when realistically the system will be finally ready. So just to be aware that is the 2-3 months is really just a guideline. And I think as a head of audit, if I feel that something could be implemented a bit sooner than the suggested timescales, then I would bring that to your attention and highlight that through one of these reports. Currently, I'm slightly more comfortable with the 1920 audit reviews because a number of these audit reports have only just recently been issued. So there's still, as I say, like with commercial rents, that one was issued a couple of months ago. So we've still, you know, we're not at that point where I'm majorly concerned about that. But you're totally right. The 18-19 ones are ones that we really do need to get on top of. Just to update on budgetary control, my understanding now, and I wanted to actually put this to you as a committee to see if you're comfortable that I can take that one off, because the risk has been accepted by the head of finance, but he's unable to implement this recommendation until such a time that he starts his next continuous improvement strategy. So he's given me assurance that yes, he's going to implement that recommendation, and I think we'll follow it up when we do our audit review. So if you're all comfortable as a committee, my suggestion is that we can take that type of recommendation off of this report, and then I monitor it through my usual follow-up arrangements. So if you're comfortable with that approach for budgetary control, we've already heard about tree stock management. Corporate governance, I'm completing a review at the moment, so I can give you, that was one of the reviews that was outstanding from 1920 that further up in the report explains that there's 3 reviews that we're still finishing. So I'll be able to be in a better position next time to talk about that one. Traffic management was escalated to management team because there'd been sort of a lack of progress there, and that is being looked at by management team. And the building control partnership one, we're actually undertaking a review currently. One of my team members is looking at that. So they were just about to sign the revised agreement, but decided it'd probably be better to wait till we finish the audit review in case we had any other comments to add. So that's sort of just been paused until we've had the opportunity to finish that review. Probably just to add to you as a committee, there is also the opportunity, if you feel it's appropriate, to invite officers along. I mean, it's difficult for me in my position. I don't actually own the risk. I highlight the risk, and of course officers are the risk owner. So I do what I can to remind them of the risk, ask for updates on the action that's been taken to date. They get monthly reminders of outstanding recommendations, but by all means, as a committee, if you now feel you need to get those officers along to the meeting to ask direct questions of them, that would be my suggestion. Thank you, Jo. That's very helpful. As far as the budgetary control, I don't have a problem with that, providing it doesn't go in the forgotten box, which I'm sure it won't with you, which would be fine. As far as the other suggestion moving forward, maybe it is something that we as a committee should consider before the meeting when you put in your next internal report. Perhaps we could ask the chairman if we feel that something should be discussed in greater detail, and we should always be mindful to do that before the meeting. But that option, I think, would help to clarify some of these matters, because some of them are, quite frankly, are covered in dust, and it is a bit concerning when they're supposed to be quite a high risk priority. So I think that's a helpful suggestion. Thank you. Moving on, I note the risk assessment that you've drawn our attention to, and totally acknowledge and accept that the safety of our staff is absolute paramount. But I don't want the checks that still outstanding and have to be done to be forgotten. So again, if you can make sure they stick on your list and keep us updated on progress on that, I would be grateful. With regard to Appendix A, if I may, note how much time you've spent on COVID-19 response, and quite understandable that was what was the requirement, and ongoing it's going to continue. So my concern is that as a result of that, you will have lost days on the planned days for the audits that you'd intended to undertake in 2021. How will you recover that? And do you need more resources to be able to cover that work?
Yep, I can answer that. Right. As you'll be aware, in the past I've used casual audit resource. That option is still there. Of course, I need to have some discussions with the head of finance, with Sarah, CFO, just to make sure we've got the budget there to support that. I need to do a little bit more work now that we're sort of coming up to the 6-month monitoring point. I'll be better placed to know, the extent of the impact of the COVID support. I can analyse the figures that we've got for Q2 and then do a bit more work around the audit plan, have a look at that assessment, risk assessment again, to see is there anything I can either rejuggle, move on, or the only other option is that we'll have to buy in some support from the casual auditors.
Thank you. I think the other questions that I had have sort of been covered in general by answering other areas. So thank you, Chairman.
I also think that COVID has brought its own set of issues that actually may need some audit resource looking back on how certain things have been done. And you mentioned your work on the business grants. Will there be some output on that that we'd be able to see when it's finished?
Yes, so at the moment we're working on the testing. We've got a testing plan of what we're actually completing, and my plan on that is to produce a sort of audit report, if want for a better word, of what we found, to give you some assurance on levels of fraud, if there were any, some statistics. So yeah, that was my intention, to provide it to you as a committee.
Thank you very much. Do any other members wish to ask a question? Okay, it's recommended that the committee now notes the contents of this report. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Irish, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Tyson-Payne, thank you very much. So we are going to note the contents of the report, and I think we're going to try the voting system to do it this time. Is that correct, Laura?
Apologies. When I've got the form up, I can't put my microphone on, so there's a slight technical glitch there.
So councillors, in the chat box, we are voting on the report, noting the contents of the report. You have the option of for, against, or abstain, and you can only vote once. You can change your vote, but only one vote is counted. So if I could ask you all to vote now, that would be brilliant. Thank you very much. And press the submit button. We've got 4 so far. So I think we're looking for 6, aren't we, Laura?
Yeah, there should be 6. So
there's one person.
Apologies, I'm not quite clear where my chat screen should be or how to access it.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, on the 3, you should have it either by hovering over the bar in the middle of your screen and the 3 dots, or it's either just in that bar with the speech bubble, or it may be on your 3 dots.
Nope.
So on the bar, Adam,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you've got the hang up on the far right.
Yep.
Then next to that, you've got participants.
Yep.
And then next to that is conversation. Click
I've
on
got
that
more
one.
actions.
Try more actions, Adam.
Okay, I've got show health and performance, show device settings, enter full screen, show background effects, keypad, or turn off incoming video.
Mr. Battle.
Is my Microsoft Teams not up to date or something?
I don't know, because you should always have chat, because otherwise you can't ask to speak in chat. James?
Sorry, can you just go through the options again? Which ones have you got there?
Okay, when I press on the one with the 3 dots, I get show health and performance, show device settings, enter full screen, show background effects, keypad, and turn off incoming video.
Okay, and the one to the right of that, of the 3 dots,
I've got show participants.
you've got
and that
nothing
brings
about. So have you already got the conversation on the right hand side where it says meeting chat?
No, it just says a list of everybody.
Okay, so click on the show participants again.
Sure.
And then again it should, and then click it again, they should all disappear. So you should just have all cameras showing.
Yep.
And then do you get the show conversation button now?
No.
No conversation, no show conversation whatsoever.
No. For what it's worth, my vote is yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have got unanimous decision on there, and we'll have to.
We definitely have. I don't know. I know we said how we were going to do it in other committees so people can see. So I will just share this screen so everybody can see, Chair, if that's okay with you.
Of course. Of course.
This is what it looks like. So this is what I can see to prove that everybody has voted. It's going to show it.
So we'll now need to add to our pre-meeting that we've all got this function.
Yeah, well, you should have it. So actually, why is that not showing? So okay, I'll show you via this version because it's not showing you the screen I wanted. So you can see on here, if it lets me do it, but it's not going to it. So you can see Councillor Irish voted for, Councillor Tennant for, Councillor Atkinson for, Councillor Bourne for, and Councillor Tyson Payne for. Now, what I was trying to show you was the Excel sheet that had you all voting, and I had a list of you, but it wouldn't let me do it. So again, that's something we'll need to work out. But at least you managed to, I say, oh, most of you managed to vote. So we'll take it as a positive. So we can carry on now, Chair.
Yes. So now we're on to section 6, the annual governance report. I will now ask our Chief Internal Auditor, Joe, to introduce item 6 on the agenda, which discusses the annual governance report. Joe, over to you, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, it's not me. It's our head of legal. Ian's going to introduce this.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Members, I think this report came back to you on came to you for the first time on the 23rd of June, and it was agreed we'll bring it back tonight so that we could take into account comments that were made about the report in the interim and incorporate those into the report. Essentially, the report remains the same, but the annual governance statement has been amended to take into account the comments that were being made. Before I go any further, Joe Casale, the head of internal audit, and I spoke earlier this afternoon, and I understand Joe on page 3 of the annual governance statement itself wishes to propose some different wordings, which if the committee is happy with, I'll ask be adopted and endorsed within the paper. Joe?
Yeah, thank you. Just to say, on reflection, when looking at this today, realised that the paragraph, so it's the second sentence of the last paragraph on page 3 of my opinion, felt that it could probably be strengthened a bit more. So rather than it saying opportunities to enhance governance, risk management and internal controls were highlighted with the appropriate audit report and recommendation made as appropriate, I'm proposing that it's amended to recommendations to enhance governance, risk management and internal controls were highlighted within the appropriate audit report. So that's the only suggestion I'm going to make. So it's just to emphasise recommendations at the start of the sentence as opposed to the end, if we're all happy with that. I can see nods.
Okay. Yeah. Does anyone?
Thank you.
Any-
Yeah, as I say, if councillors are happy with that and approve the reports at the end of the day, we will make sure it's incorporated in the final document. But other than that, the report was with you previously, so I would merely pass it over to you for questions and hopefully approval in due course in accordance with paragraphs 16, 15 and 16. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask members for questions, I will invite questions from non-committee members.
I have no questions. This is Councillor Grajewski. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now invite questions from committee members, and the first question, please, from Councillor Atkinson.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, thank you very much for revising this and bringing it back to us. I do think the revisions are a vast improvement on the previous one, and I'm particularly pleased, Joe, with your changes this evening. I think it does strengthen the report and more in line with how you've been reporting internal audit matters to us over the year, as I feel your recommendations form a strong part of your reports, and I'm really pleased to see that being emphasised, so thank you very much for that. I'm also very glad to see the additional references to COVID risks in the report, which have been added from the previous report, which are very welcome and certainly in line with our external auditors' thoughts on the matter. So I'm happy now to join in accepting the document. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tyson-Payne.
Okay, so bear with me. I've got a couple of questions. I'm not asking for any changes. I just need some clarification. So on page 5, point 3, I just wondered when is the Constitution going to be sent to councillors ahead of the full council in November? Because I anticipate it being a weighty document and I suspect we'll need some time to read it. So that was my first question. Do you want to go with that one first?
Yes, I wonder if I could pass to Joe, because I think you're vaguely heading on that project. Sorry, Joe, hospital pass, I'm afraid.
No, I passed one earlier. You can pass one back to me. Right, yes, so Ian's right. I'm heading up, I'm looking after, as part of recovery, a governance work stream. And as part of that governance work stream, we've got a review of the Constitution. So we have Nick Tustian as our project sponsor and Richard Ward, our monitoring officer, is the project manager. As you say, you quite rightly, as stakeholders of the Constitution, need to have time to review that. As far as I'm aware, a copy is coming to Policy and Performance in October, is my understanding. Oh, Laura, did you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the full copy is going.
Okay.
I think that's still to be confirmed. I know there's something going this week, but that's the project initiation document is going to P&P this week, and I think what they decide based on the project initiation document will then inform what they do in terms of whether the full document goes there or whether it stays outside of that meeting, if that makes sense. So they get information in terms of how we're working and our timescales and what's happening to the Constitution, but I'm not sure whether the intention is to take the full document to P&P.
Okay. What I can do then is I will feed back what you've asked for and highlight to Nick and as I said, as project sponsor, our CEO, that you're all keen as councillors to be able to review the document and have plenty of time to have a look and comment upon it. I mean, the timescales at the moment is the full Constitution. The plan is it's going to come to November's council currently.
So I seem to recall last time there was some changes to the Constitution at full council. It was requested that we were told which bits had changed. Yes, rather than us trying to plough through the whole thing and go. So that's what I'm really looking for. What's changed, and I can all of us can check that out.
Yeah, no, I can feed that back. That's interesting. Thank you.
So also on that same page, oh hang on, I've lost it. There it is. Point 5. I'm sorry, what is channel shift?
Pass.
I was going to say, Sarah, did you want to answer or?
Yeah, I'm happy to pick that up. So that's where we're trying to move, where possible, people onto more digital platforms.
Right.
So yeah, it's not for everybody because some people still need to see us and use paper, but wherever possible, we try and shift all our channels of communications as far as we can to online.
Okay, that answers that. Lovely. And then right, page 8, principle E. I just wonder, why are we using developing the entity's capacity? Is not the entity the council? It just seems a bit of an odd wording.
Yes, it does. I'm quite happy if we look at using council. The entity to me implies the whole. Is that wider than the council? I doubt it. So I'm quite happy if members, councillors want to change that to council.
Well, and it also appears later in one of the diagrams. There's a big round.
Would councillors be happy if I said we would do a word search, take out entity and put council in replacement of the word entity, rather than go through and pick them all out now? We can do a word search on whatever documents search for.
Sorry to interrupt, but can I ask a question about that? If you just have council in that, would that exclude council's investment companies? And should this not be including that? Would the entity capture its subsidiaries rather than just council? I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
I would say it would, because the entity is tied in whatever way to the council, be it we're a partner in it, or be it a body that we have specifically set up.
Thank you.
So I think the council would capture all our activities.
Okay, thank you. I think that's my last question. Let me just scroll on down. Yes, no, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from councillors? Okay, it's recommended that the committee notes the contents of the report. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Irish, and a seconder? Councillor Manning, thank you very much. And I think we're going to try and vote again. So it's all good practice. So if you put your eyes towards the chat box. So we are voting on item agenda 6, for, against or abstain. If I could ask you to cast your vote and click submit.
Sorry, Chairman, just to be clear, if we vote for, we're voting for the amendments as discussed.
Yes, we are. Sorry, I should make that clear.
So that's complete, Chair. Adam can't vote unless we kick him out and put him back in again. So for this point, we won't, but we will, obviously, because Adam will use it at, sorry, Councillor Manning, but there is nobody watching, we'll use it at a BHH. So we figured that, Adam, you'd probably prefer to stay in the meeting than just kick you out.
We have 6 votes.
All right.
I dropped out. I popped back in again. Lo and behold, I have my chat facility now. How about that?
So to be fair, Microsoft did say that would happen, but we didn't want to kick you out of the meeting and put you back in.
Don't worry, I have the requisite technical wizardry.
Well, there you go then. So everybody's managed to vote.
And thank you, councillors. That was unanimous vote for. Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Joe, for that.
Thank you.
So the next item is the medium-term financial plan and financial update. So we are looking for our head of finance, Andy Smith, to introduce item 7 on the agenda, which discusses the medium-term financial plan and the financial update to July 2020.
Chair, I think that's from an old script.
Oh,
Alex.
So do I.
I think there's been, where we updated it, I think you've somehow, I'm not quite sure what's happened because that's not the script I'm looking at that we updated and sent you. So We're
Right,
now on
apologies.
to external audit progress.
Wow. Sorry, I was just
Don't worry.
all of a fluster now. Right.
I wondered if I was in the wrong meeting then, but
Yeah.
I'm in the right place. Good evening, everybody. So we thought it'd be helpful to just give you a quick progress update on where we are with the external audit, so the audit of the accounts and the value for money conclusion. So as you know from the audit committee update that we gave at the end of July, COVID-19's had quite a significant impact, as you would expect, on all of the audits that we're doing. So those impacts at a high level are twofold, really. One, as already been described by the head of internal audit, it does make the audits much more difficult practically to deliver because of the physical restrictions on movement and the difficulty in communicating like this, I suppose. Two, for us, it also does have a very significant impact on the level of risk and the amount of work that we need to do to be able to get comfortable in relation to those risks. So we had a planned visit that we've had in all year during July. We worked hard through that visit. Officers were extremely helpful. I think we've worked together very well in this difficult situation to get as much evidence and assurance as we can within the time that we had available. And I'm pleased to say that we are now quite a long way through the audit, so it is relatively well progressed. We expect to be back in to finish off, all being well, the audit this month, so towards the end of this month. The committee will remember that nationally, reflecting COVID-19 and the pressure that it's created, the target date for delivery of the audit opinion has been pushed back to the end of November, and that is that it would have been the end of July. It is now the end of November. We are hopeful that we will be in a place where all the work is done for the council by the end of October. That's where we currently think we will be. And as I say, our resources are back in at the end of this month. And just to reiterate again, the helpful way that officers have worked with us to get this far, because frankly, it's been highly challenging for every audit that we've needed to deliver this year. We will be making some amendments to the draft statements that were submitted. There's nothing in particular that I would want to draw to your attention now, but there will be some amendments, and I think you would reasonably expect that in the current situation. In terms of areas of outstanding work, there are a few things. So the council has commissioned some new valuations of its property, plant and equipment assets because of the impact on value brought about by C19. It's likely that they're going to need to be reflected as non-adjusting post-balance sheet events in the financial statements. We have some bits and pieces to conclude on finishing our testing. It's been quite difficult to get evidence in all cases because of the practical difficulties. And the other main area is the disclosures that go in the statements on the council's ability to continue as a going concern. So the financial statements have been prepared on a going concern basis. That is to be expected. It's the council's a public sector body. There is a statutory presumption of continuation of services and that the council will continue to be a going concern. However, it is involved in quite a high level of commercial activity relative to most councils. COVID-19 does impact on that, and we really do need to make sure that the disclosures in the statements fully reflect those issues and risks, and ultimately why the council believes that it's appropriate to prepare the statements on a going concern basis. So it was just a very quick update from me, I suppose, to let you know where we are and keep you in the loop and in the picture. I suppose to give you some assurance that I think things have, in the circumstances, progressed well, and that at the moment we are on track to meet the revised deadline. And I suppose to give you a flavour of where the issues are. I'll stop there, but very happy to take any questions you have.
Chair, may I ask a question,
Yes.
which probably you won't be able to answer, but I recognise there's been significant additional work because of COVID issues. Clearly that is going to be reflected in our audit fees. Are you able to give us an estimate of what the additional costs are likely to be? If you can't, I don't expect you an answer right now. I think that might be difficult, but if you could give that to us when we have our next meeting, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you are right in that assumption. this is driving additional work everywhere. There will be a fee impact. I couldn't quantify that now, and it wouldn't be right for me to try and do so, noting that the work is ongoing. But yes, of course. And of course, if next time when we come to the committee we are bringing our audit results report, which is a possibility, it will all be set out in the audit results report.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other questions? Well, thank you very much for the update, much appreciated, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you very much, Chair.
No worries. So there was no report there to vote on, so we will move on to the next item, which hopefully is verbal updates from members representing the Strategic Risk Management Group, the Procurement Executive Group and the Housing Group. So could I invite Councillor Tyson Payne to provide an update for the SRMG?
Yes. So members, since the last update from Councillor Irish, the SRMG doesn't meet until Thursday this week, so I have no update for you. So there's nothing I can say. I've witted on to say nothing. I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for letting us know. I'd now like to invite Councillor Atkinson to provide an update for PEG.
Thank you, Chairman. We actually met lunchtime today, so this is hot off the press. Not a vast amount to report. I think the basic points are that the annual report that we produce, and it needed to be for 2 years because last year hadn't been signed off. So for 18-19 and for 19-20 have both now been signed off and approved by the group, and will be published wherever it is appropriate for that to be published. Sustainability, Jason was able to advise us that they're reviewing T's and C's to make sure we've got social values, climate issues within that. And he also reported that a climate officer has now been appointed to start on the 1st of October, and an energy manager vacancy is to be advertised. So hopefully we've got more support for looking at climate and environmental issues, because we also recognise the issue on procurement relating to climate change, and we're hoping that we will be able to get some indicators into our procurement performance indicators to assess climate change issues as well as financial matters when looking at procurement. Lucy, that is Lucy Dodsworth, has produced a draft best practice guide which looks as if it's going to be a very useful and helpful document for all officers looking at procurement. So that is an ongoing piece of work, and it certainly looks it's going to be very valuable to all members of staff. We were asked for feedback from A&R, and I said that we didn't have any, but if there is any feedback, I'll be happy to take it back to PEG. And then the final thing to note is that contract standing orders are being reviewed, and we'll be looking at those specifically on the 20th of October. I think that was everything, unless Wayne has anything to add.
Margaret, you covered it all so well, as I thought you would. That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you very much, Councillor Atkinson. I don't believe Councillor Dean is here. I don't know if anyone else has an update for housing.
It's not met, so that's a nice, easy update for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so on to the next item is the action list. It says ask Sarah for an update.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So there are only 2 actions on your action list. The first one is about the internal audit charter, so I'm throwing that Joe's way.
Yeah, yeah, over to me. Right, it was all about part of the standards. We have to get an external assessment to make sure that we're complying with the public sector internal audit standards. You'll be aware we've discussed this before, that ideally I'd quite like another council to do that review for us, and then we reciprocate that and do the review for them. Of course, at the moment, still not the time, I think, for us to be chasing other councils, because they'll be doing exactly the same as us with a lot of the business grant assurance stuff that it's not forgotten, if I can give you that reassurance.
Thanks, Jo. And the second point was to set up a Teams meeting for the housing group, which I thought had been set up, but I've just heard that you haven't met recently. So, and I'm seeing a shaking head, so I'm going to follow that up straight away with an email to make sure that does happen.
Thank you. Can I comment on that, please, Chair?
Yes.
I wondered if it would be possible to set up housing group meetings to coincide with meeting prior to Cabinet, when Cabinet is looking at property issues. Because if there's an issue that needs to be reviewed, it's sensible to do it before it goes to Cabinet, rather than trying to do it either at Cabinet in more detail than is actually required, or trying to reinvent the wheel after the event, which isn't really terribly successful. So I do wonder if we could look at the housing group meeting in line with immediately prior to Cabinet, and set up a series of dates, which of course can always be cancelled if there's nothing to discuss.
Yeah, I can get them to do that. The only exception I would say is if it's a big scheme and it comes to just Audit Resources generally, then that probably supersedes the housing group. But yeah, no problem. I'll get them set up in line with Cabinet meetings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the short list? Excellent. So we now move on to the Cabinet Forward Plan. Are there any questions on this? Excellent. And then the next item is the A&R work programme. Do any members have any questions on this? Excellent. So the date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 20th of October at 6:15, same time, same place. I'd like to thank everybody for their contributions this evening, and thank you to the officers, and I hope you all have a good rest of your evening.
Chair. Did you just say the 20th of October?
That's what I'm reading off of my...
Yeah, can I just point out that in my diary we also have an admin committee meeting that evening. I don't know if somebody needs...
Our admin is on the 12th of October.
Right, okay, error. Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. So
thank you, Chair, for chairing a really good meeting. Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
Good night, everybody.
And well done on the voting stuff.
Yeah, it was excellent, very good.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.